The Brooklyn skyline glittered through the window, but inside our cramped apartment, the air crackled with something sharper, tension. I stood frozen, my heart hammering, as Marcus's words hung between us like a guillotine. "Those shorts are ridiculous, Eli. Pack your stuff and go." His voice was a blade, but his eyes, those deep, amber eyes, betrayed him, flickering with a blush that screamed he didn't mean it. I'd moved into Marcus's place 3 months ago, a desperate grad student answering a Craigslist ad to split rent in Williamsburg. The ad promised chill vibes, no drama. But Marcus Carter was the opposite of chill. A 26-year-old graphic designer with a sharp tongue and sharper cheekbones. He had a knack for getting under my skin. I'm Elias Eli Nguyen, 24, a Vietnamese-American aspiring playwright with a penchant for bold fashion and bolder dreams. My tight, neon green shorts were just the latest thing Marcus loved to hate. Or so I thought. That morning, I'd been sprawled on our thrift store couch, scribbling lines for a play about love in the face of fear. Marcus stormed in from his morning run, sweat glistening on his warm brown skin, his usual scowl in place. "You look like a lime popsicle," he'd said, eyeing my shorts. I laughed it off, tossing a cushion at him. "You're just jealous I pull them off." He rolled his eyes, but I caught the way his gaze lingered, the faintest flush creeping up his neck. It wasn't the first time I'd noticed. The way he'd hover when I cooked pho, pretending to critique my technique. The way he'd linger in the doorway when I practiced lines, his sarcasm masking something softer. But Marcus was a fortress. Raised in a strict Baptist family in Atlanta, he'd built walls higher than the Empire State. I, on the other hand, was an open book, out since high school, wearing my heart on my sleeve and my pride in my wardrobe. The fight erupted over nothing and everything. I'd left dishes in the sink, again, and Marcus snapped, his voice low and venomous. "You don't belong here, Eli. This isn't your stage." The words stung, but it was the leave that gutted me. I stood, defiant, my shorts suddenly feeling tighter, more exposed. "You don't get to decide where I belong." I shot back, stepping closer. His breath hitched, and that blush, God, that blush, lit up his face like a confession. I didn't leave. I couldn't. Not when his eyes screamed stay. The next morning, the apartment felt like a minefield. Marcus avoided me, burying himself in his sketch pad, his pencil scratching furiously. I tried to focus on my play, but every word felt like a plea for him to look at me. By noon, I couldn't take the silence. "You gonna apologize for yesterday?" I asked, leaning against the kitchen counter, my voice softer than I meant. He didn't look up. "Nothing to apologize for. You're messy, Eli. Deal with it." I snorted, crossing my arms. "Messy? You're the one who can't handle a little color in your life." I gestured to my shorts, now a bright coral pair, and his lips twitched, almost a smile. "They're distracting," he muttered, his pencil pausing. "Distracting how?" I pressed, stepping closer. His eyes flicked up, and for a split second, I saw it. Want. Raw, unguarded want. Then he slammed his sketchpad shut and stood, brushing past me. "Just clean the damn dishes," he growled, but his voice shook. That night, I found his sketchpad open on the couch. A half-finished drawing of me, mid-laugh, my shorts rendered in vibrant detail. My heart lurched. Marcus wasn't just fighting me. He was fighting himself. Over the next week, the tension grew, a tightrope we both walked. I caught him staring when I danced to Lizzo in the living room, his scowl softening into something else. He'd snap at me for leaving scripts everywhere, but he'd read them when he thought I wasn't looking, his fingers tracing my words like they were secrets. I pushed back, wearing brighter clothes, leaving playful notes on the fridge. "Admit you love my shorts." He never responded, but the notes disappeared, tucked away somewhere I couldn't see. One night, after a long day of rehearsals, I came home to find Marcus cooking. Actual cooking, not his usual takeout. The smell of jerked chicken filled the air, a recipe from his mom. Thought you'd be hungry, he mumbled, not meeting my eyes. I grinned, slipping into a chair. You trying to bribe me to move out? He froze, then set a plate in front of me. Maybe I'm trying to get you to stay, he said, so quiet I almost missed it. My fork clattered to the table. His blush was back, fiercer than ever, and I knew we were on the edge of something neither of us could ignore. The air in the apartment shifted after that night, like a storm had passed, but left the ground unsteady. Marcus's words, maybe I'm trying to get you to stay, echoed in my head, a melody I couldn't shake. I wanted to grab him, demand he explain, but Marcus was a locked door, and I didn't have the key. Yet. The next day, I wore my boldest outfit yet, electric blue shorts and a cropped tee, a deliberate test. Marcus glanced up from his laptop, his jaw tightening. You trying to blind me? He muttered, but his eyes lingered, tracing the lines of my legs. I smirked, leaning against the wall. Just giving you something to draw. He choked on his coffee, and I laughed, the sound breaking the tension. But it wasn't enough. I needed more than stolen glances and half-spoken truths. I needed him to admit what we both felt. That weekend, our friends dragged us to a queer art gallery opening in Bushwick. The space was alive with color. Paintings of lovers, rebels, and dreamers splashed across the walls. Marcus wandered off, his hands stuffed in his pockets, but I caught him staring at a piece. Two men embracing, their faces lit with quiet joy. I sidled up beside him. You like it? He shrugged, but his voice was soft. It's honest. I wanted to ask what he meant, but a friend interrupted, pulling me into a debate about performance art. When I looked back, Marcus was gone, lost in the crowd. I found him later on the gallery's rooftop, the city sprawling below us. He was leaning against the railing, his silhouette sharp against the neon skyline. You okay? I asked, my heart pounding. He didn't turn. You make everything so loud, Eli, he said, his voice raw. Your clothes, your laugh, your everything. It's too much. I stepped closer, my chest tight. Too much for what? For me to keep pretending I don't. He stopped, his hands gripping the railing. I waited, the silence deafening. Finally, he turned, his eyes blazing. You make it impossible to look away. My breath caught. I reached out, my fingers brushing his. Then don't, I whispered. For a moment, we stood there, the world fading to nothing but his warmth, his pulse under my touch. Then he pulled away, muttering something about needing air, and disappeared into the night. Back at the apartment, the tension was unbearable. Marcus buried himself in work, sketching late into the night, while I poured my frustration into my play. My characters were us, two souls circling each other, too scared to leap. One night, I left a script page on the table, a scene where the protagonist confesses his love. When I woke up, it was gone, replaced by a single word scrawled in Marcus's handwriting, coward. I confronted him that morning, my heart in my throat. You calling me a coward? I asked, holding up the note. He didn't flinch. Maybe I'm calling myself one. The words hit like a punch. I stepped closer, my voice trembling. Then stop running, Marcus. Say it. He looked at me, his eyes a storm of fear and longing. I can't, he whispered and walked away. The next week was torture. Marcus was distant, his sarcasm sharper, his walls higher. I tried to reach him, leaving coffee on his desk, playing his favorite jazz records, but he shut me out. My place suffered, my words flat without him in them. I started to wonder if I'd misread everything, if his blush was just wishful thinking. Then came the night of the open mic at a local cafe. I'd signed up to read a scene from my play, a last-ditch effort to say what I couldn't in person. The cafe was packed, fairy lights twinkling above the stage. Marcus showed up, surprising me, his arms crossed, but his eyes locked on me. I read my scene. A raw, aching confession of love between two men, one too afraid to admit he cared. The crowd was silent, then erupted in applause, but I only saw Marcus, his face unreadable. Afterward, he found me outside, the autumn air sharp. "That was about us, wasn't it?" he asked, his voice low. I nodded, my throat tight. "You gonna keep pretending it's not?" He stepped closer, his breath warm against my cheek. "I'm not good at this, Eli," he said, his voice breaking. "But I don't want you to leave." My heart stopped. I reached for him, and this time, he didn't pull away. The world felt different after Marcus's words, like the air itself had softened. We stood outside the cafe, inches apart, the city's hum fading into a distant pulse. His hand found mine, tentative, his fingers warm and trembling. "I don't know how to do this," he admitted, his eyes searching mine. "But I want to try." I squeezed his hand, my voice barely a whisper. "Then we'll figure it out together." Back at the apartment, the tension didn't vanish, it transformed. Every glance, every brush of shoulders, carried weight. Marcus was still Marcus, quick to snap when I left my script scattered, but now his barbs came with a shy smile, a lingering look. I caught him sketching me again, this time not hiding it. A portrait of me in those coral shorts, my eyes bright with defiance. "You're obsessed," I teased, leaning over his shoulder. He smirked, not denying it. "They're still ridiculous." But he didn't mean it, not really. I saw it in the way he'd linger when I changed shirts, the way he'd hum along when I played my music too loud. We were dancing around something bigger, something neither of us was ready to name. One night, we stayed up late, sprawled on the couch with cheap wine and a stack of vinyls. Coltrane's saxophone filled the room, and Marcus talked about his childhood, his dad's sermons, his mom's cooking, the weight of expectations he'd carried. Coming out wasn't an option, he said, his voice heavy. "Still isn't, not with them." I reached for his hand, my heart aching. "You don't have to tell them yet. But you don't have to hide with me." He looked at me, his eyes raw. "You make it sound so easy." "It's not," I said, scooting closer. "But it's worth it." The weeks that followed were a blur of stolen moments. Kisses in the kitchen, late-night talks about our dreams, our fears. Marcus started opening up, his walls crumbling bit by bit. He showed me his portfolio, designs vibrant with color and life, and I read him drafts of my play, his feedback sharp but kind. We were building something, fragile but real. But the world outside our apartment wasn't as kind. One evening, we went to a bar in the East Village, our hands brushing as we walked. A group of guys catcalled, their words sharp and cruel, aimed at my bright yellow shorts and our closeness. Marcus tensed, his hand dropping mine. I grabbed it back, defiant, but I saw the fear in his eyes, the ghosts of his past rising. At home, he was quiet, retreating to his sketchpad. "You okay?" I asked, sitting beside him. He shook his head. "I thought I could do this, Eli." But out there, he trailed off, his pencil snapping in his hand. I took the broken pieces, setting them aside. "We don't have to be loud about it," I said. "But I'm not letting you go because of some assholes." He looked at me, his eyes glistening. "You're too much, you know that." I grinned, leaning in. "And you love it." He kissed me, fierce and desperate, and I knew we'd face whatever came, together. But the cracks were there. Marcus's family called, their voices heavy with expectations, and I saw the weight settle back on his shoulders. My play was gaining traction, with a local theater interested, but every rehearsal pulled me away from him. We were growing, but so were the stakes, and I couldn't shake the fear that we were one fight away from breaking. The theater's lights burned bright, but all I could think about was Marcus. My play's opening night was a week away, and the pressure was suffocating, rehearsals, rewrites, and the constant hum of doubt. Marcus was my anchor, But he was slipping, his smiles rarer, his sketches darker. His family's calls had intensified, their voices pulling him back to a world where I didn't exist. One night, I came home to find him packing a bag. My heart stopped. "What's this?" I asked, my voice shaking. He didn't look at me. "I'm going to Atlanta for a bit. My dad's sick." I stepped closer, my hands trembling. "You're coming back, right?" He paused, his shoulders slumping. "I don't know, Eli. I don't know if I can keep doing this." The words were a knife. I grabbed his arm, turning him to face me. "Don't do this, Marcus. Don't run." His eyes were wet, his voice raw. "I'm not like you. I can't just be out there, wearing my heart like you wear those damn shorts. It's too hard." I cupped his face, forcing him to look at me. "It's hard for me too. But I choose you. Every day, I choose you." He broke, pulling me into a kiss that tasted of salt and fear. "I don't deserve you," he whispered. "You do," I said fiercely. "And I'm not letting you go." He stayed, but the tension lingered. The night of my play, he was there, in the front row, his eyes locked on me. The story, our story, unfolded on stage, two men fighting for love against a world that didn't understand. The audience wept, cheered, but all I saw was Marcus, his face a mix of pride and pain. After the show, we walked home, the city quiet around us. "You were incredible," he said, his voice soft. "Your words, they're bigger than us." I stopped, turning to him. "They're about us. About choosing love, even when it's scary." He took my hand, his grip tight. "I'm scared, Eli, but I'm choosing you too." We didn't solve everything that night. His family still loomed, and the world still judged. But we had each other, two men, one in tight shorts, the other blushing through his walls, building a life brick by brick. In our messy apartment, with its fairy lights and scattered scripts, we found a truth worth fighting for. Love, however hard, was always worth it.